Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The distress beacon had been silent for 10,000 years. Not dormant, not damaged, silent. It was the kind of silence that became legend. The kind spacers whispered about in dimly lit bars, usually after too many drinks and too many years surviving jobs they never should have lived through. Ancient beacons were supposed to fail, decay, dissolve into background noise. This one hadn't failed. It had simply stopped speaking, as if whatever had activated it had decided the universe no longer deserved an answer. And then, without warning, it screamed. Across the sector, receivers flared to life. Salvage guild channels lit up. Private comms exploded with alerts. A signal older than most recorded civilizations had just reactivated, broadcasting on frequencies no modern system used anymore. Clean, precise, unmistakably artificial. Every scavenger, pirate, and corporate recovery fleet within range turned their ships toward the source. Marcus Chen didn't hear it first. He was just the closest. His ship, the Rust Bucket, drifted on the edge of a debris cloud when the alert flashed across his cracked navigation screen. The hull plates rattled as the outdated processor struggled to decode the signal. Warning icons bloomed like a bad rash across the display, but Marcus barely noticed. He was too busy staring at the timestamp. 10,000 years. Marcus let out a slow breath and rubbed his eyes. "That's not real," he muttered. Old beacons didn't wake up. Not without a reason. And reasons like that usually got people killed. The Rust Bucket was barely spaceworthy. Its frame was an ugly patchwork of salvaged parts welded together over years of necessity and bad luck. The engines whined instead of purred. Life support flickered on cold days. The paint, whatever original color it had once been, was long gone, stripped away by radiation and micrometeor impacts. It wasn't impressive, and it wasn't fast, but it was his. Marcus had been a salvager for 5 years, ever since he left Earth with nothing but debt records, burned bridges, and memories he didn't like revisiting. Salvage wasn't glamorous. It was dangerous, isolating, and paid just well enough to keep you one mistake away from suffocating alone in the dark. But it didn't ask questions, and it didn't care who you used to be. The beacon's coordinates appeared on the screen. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. The void expanse. Ships didn't go there unless they were desperate or stupid. The region sat between major trade routes, far from stations and patrol zones, a graveyard of twisted metal and forgotten dreams. Navigational anomalies warped sensors. Ghost signals appeared and vanished without explanation. Entire crews had disappeared after entering, leaving behind nothing but garbled final transmissions and insurance disputes. Most salvagers avoided it. Marcus leaned back in his chair, listening to the low hum of the ship. He checked his fuel reserves. Not great. He checked his account balance. Worse. He laughed, short and humorless. "Figures," he said. 10,000 years, and it waits until I'm broke." He knew what the smart choice was. Log the signal. Transmit the coordinates anonymously. Let corporations and governments tear each other apart racing for it. Maybe collect a small finder's fee if he was lucky. But he also knew how those stories usually ended. Someone else got rich, someone else got famous, and the person who found it first either disappeared or was quietly erased from the record. Marcus stared at the coordinates again. The beacon wasn't just old, it was impossibly old. Older than most interstellar powers. Older than the earliest surviving star maps. If the rumors were even half true, he swallowed. The architects. A civilization that existed before recorded history. A species, or perhaps something else entirely, that had reshaped stars and rewritten physics as casually as other species built shelters. They hadn't fallen. They hadn't been conquered. They had vanished, leaving behind ruins too advanced to understand and technology no one could replicate. If the beacon belonged to them, Marcus wasn't looking at salvage. He was looking at the most valuable object in the known galaxy. His hands trembled slightly as he brought the rust bucket around. The engines protested, but they responded. The ship angled toward the void expanse, toward a place that didn't want visitors. As the stars thinned and darkness deepened, Marcus felt the weight of the decision settle in his chest. This wasn't bravery. It wasn't greed either. It was something quieter and more dangerous. The feeling that if he turned away now, he would spend the rest of his life wondering who he might have been. The void swallowed him. Sensors began to behave strangely as he crossed the boundary. Distance readings stretched and compressed. Debris appeared where none had been moments before. Hulks of ancient ships drifted past, some human, some alien, some so old their designs no longer matched any known species. Then Marcus saw it, the ship. It dwarfed everything around it, a vast silhouette suspended in the darkness like a sleeping god. Even the largest Krell carrier ships would have looked small beside it. Its hull was made of a dark metal that didn't reflect light so much as absorb it, drinking in the faint glow of distant stars. Strange patterns crawled across its surface, geometric, flowing, wrong. Marcus felt a dull ache behind his eyes just looking at them for too long. His ship's database returned nothing. No identification, no match, no classification. "What are you?" Marcus whispered. The beacon originated from a docking structure along the massive hull. Intact. Waiting. He hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to mark the coordinates and run before something noticed him, before he noticed something else. But the ship wasn't firing weapons. It wasn't powering up engines. It was just there, silent and impossibly ancient, as if it had been waiting for someone exactly like him to arrive. Marcus exhaled slowly and guided the rust bucket closer. The docking sequence initiated automatically. That should have terrified him more than it did. The clamps engaged with a precision no modern system could match, locking his ship into place as gently as a hand closing around glass. Warning lights flickered across his console, but nothing failed, nothing resisted. Marcus stood, pulling on his environment suit. He checked the seals twice, then a third time. The pistol on his hip felt heavier than usual, an almost insulting reminder of how unprepared he was. As the airlock began to cycle, Marcus had one final thought. Whatever waited on the other side of that door had survived 10,000 years of silence. And now, for the first time since history began, it wasn't alone anymore. The airlock opened without resistance. No screech of metal, no rush of stale atmosphere, just a smooth, controlled hiss, as if the ship had been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it for centuries. Marcus stepped forward, boots touching the deck of the ancient vessel, and immediately felt something was wrong. There was no echo. His footsteps made no sound at all. The metal beneath him absorbed vibration, weight, even the subtle hum of his suit's servos. His helmet light cut through the darkness, revealing a corridor that stretched far beyond the reach of the beam, its walls covered in the same shifting patterns he'd seen on the hull. Up close, they were worse. They weren't engraved or painted. They moved, slowly, subtly, rearranging themselves in ways that made his eyes struggle to focus. "This is insane," Marcus muttered. "I should leave. I should absolutely leave." He didn't. The corridor widened into a vast chamber, so large his mind refused to estimate its size. His light couldn't reach the ceiling or the far walls. In the center stood a pillar of crystalline material, rising from the floor like a frozen lightning bolt. It pulsed with a faint blue glow, the only light source in the entire ship. As Marcus approached, the ship reacted. The patterns along the walls flared to life, glowing blue in response to his presence. Light rippled outward from the pillar, washing across the chamber like a tide, revealing impossible scale. Platforms, conduits, structures layered atop one another in three-dimensional complexity. This wasn't just a ship. It was a city folded into a single hull. Then the voice spoke, not aloud, inside his head. "Species unknown. Scanning." Marcus froze. His heart slammed against his ribs. He tried to speak, but his throat locked up as the voice continued, calm and precise, dissecting him piece by piece. Biological structure confirmed. Neural complexity within acceptable parameters. Species designation, human. The light intensified. You are unexpected, Marcus screamed. He collapsed to his knees as images detonated in his mind. A flood so vast it drowned thought itself. He saw stars being born, clouds of gas igniting into light. He saw civilizations rise from stone tools to star-spanning empires, only to crumble into dust in memory. He saw wars that made human conflicts look like childish scuffles, weapons that bent space, fleets that blotted out suns. He saw the architects, not as gods, not as monsters, but as beings of pure cognition and energy, minds vast enough to shape reality directly. They created not through force, but through understanding, treating physics as suggestion rather than law. And then he saw them hunted, something older, darker. Not ships, not creatures, but absences, voids moving through space, erasing matter, energy, and information alike. Entire architect fleets vanished without explosions, without debris, without sound. One moment they existed, the next they never had. The pain peaked, then vanished. Marcus gasped, collapsing onto the cold metal floor. Blood trickled from his nose, drifting in slow arcs before being pulled back by gravity he hadn't noticed until now. His muscles burned. His head felt like it had been split open and rearranged. But underneath the pain, there was something else. Awareness. He could feel the ship. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. He knew where every corridor led, where every dormant system slept, where damage had crept in over millennia. The ship's presence wrapped around his thoughts like an extension of his own nervous system. What did you do to me? Marcus whispered. Light coalesced above the crystalline pillar, forming a translucent figure, humanoid only in the loosest sense. Its features shifted constantly, never settling into a fixed shape. I bonded with you, the voice replied. I am keeper, custodian of this vessel and its knowledge. You survived the bonding process. Marcus laughed weakly. That's good news, I guess. It is unprecedented, Keeper said. You are the first in 10,000 years. Why me? Marcus asked. I'm not special. I'm not a soldier or a scientist. I'm just a guy who takes apart dead ships for a living. Keeper paused. That is precisely why you survived. Images surfaced again, gentler this time. Humans improvising solutions. Humans breaking rules they barely understood. Humans succeeding not because they were optimal, but because they were adaptable. The architects sought perfection, Keeper continued. You seek possibility. You accept uncertainty. You create without complete understanding. That flexibility is rare. Marcus pushed himself upright, leaning against a console that felt warm beneath his gloves. So what now? Am I part of the ship? Part of something greater, Keeper replied. This vessel was designed to be guided by thought, by imagination. Its creators hoped that one day someone different would find it, someone who could finish what they began. Marcus swallowed. And what did they begin? Keeper showed him. The ship was dying. Systems that had functioned flawlessly for thousands of years were failing. Power conduits had degraded. Manufacturing arrays lay dormant, starved of resources. Without intervention, the vessel would eventually become just another drifting tomb. Together, Keeper said, we can repair it. We can restore what was lost. Marcus felt the weight of the choice settle on him. He could leave, seal the airlock, forget everything he'd seen, go back to scraping by, pretending this never happened. Or he could stay, bonded to an ancient intelligence, tied to a legacy that had reshaped the universe, and nearly been erased by it. What happens if I say no? Marcus asked quietly. Keeper didn't hesitate. Then this ship will remain silent until the void consumes it, and the knowledge it carries will die with it. Marcus thought of the architect's final moments, of brilliance wiped from existence because it stood alone, of a galaxy that had forgotten what creation on that scale looked like. He exhaled. "Okay," he said, "let's rebuild." The days that followed blurred together. Information poured into his mind constantly. Schematics, principles, systems that defied modern science. Marcus slept in short bursts, waking with headaches and half-formed equations echoing behind his eyes. The ship was enormous, larger than any city he'd ever seen on Earth, and most of it was broken or offline. "We need power cells, quantum processors, and something called phase matter," Marcus said during one of their early assessments, staring at a projection dense with red warning symbols. "I don't even know what phase matter is. We can synthesize it," Keeper replied, "with sufficient raw materials." "And where do we get those?" Keeper's silence was answer enough. Marcus paced the chamber, nerves buzzing. "People mean questions. Questions mean trouble. If anyone realizes what this ship is, they will come," Keeper finished. "The architects learned that lesson too late." Marcus stopped. "Then we don't make noise," he said. "We move. Somewhere quiet." A new path unfolded in his mind as the ship responded to the decision. For the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient vessel prepared to leave its grave. And Marcus Chen, failed salvager with nothing to lose, realized he had just stepped onto a path that would make him the most hunted man in the galaxy. The ancient vessel slid through space without sound. Marcus felt it before he understood it. There was no acceleration, no engine burn, no vibration through the deck. Space itself seemed to bend, repositioning the ship as gently as a thought shifting in his mind. Keeper explained it later. Architect propulsion didn't push against reality. It persuaded it. They moved to the asteroid field on the edge of the void expanse, a chaotic sprawl of tumbling rock and metallic debris left over from a long-dead system. Dense enough to confuse sensors, dangerous enough to discourage casual patrols. Perfect. Mining began immediately. Marcus guided the ship not with controls, but with intent. When he imagined a trajectory, the vessel followed it. When he focused on a cluster rich in heavy elements, mining drones detached from the hull and flowed outward like a school of mechanical fish. It felt natural, too natural. Each hour made it easier to forget that this power wasn't supposed to belong to him, but time wasn't on his side. Even with stealth systems engaged, activity left traces, heat differentials, gravitational disturbances, tiny inconsistencies that modern patrol AIs were trained to notice. Marcus knew it was only a matter of time before someone came looking. That time turned out to be 2 hours. "Contacts," Keeper announced, its tone sharpening. 4 vessels exiting hyperspace. Krell design. Battle group configuration. Marcus's stomach dropped. Already, the holographic display bloomed to life, showing 4 angular warships spreading out around the asteroid field. Krell vessels were built for intimidation. Thick armor, oversized weapon arrays, minimal redundancy. They didn't dodge. They advanced and crushed whatever was in front of them. A harsh voice cut through the comm channel. "Unidentified vessel. This is Krell Battle Group 7. You are operating in restricted space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Marcus exhaled slowly. His hands hovered over controls he didn't intend to use. "Keeper," he said quietly. "Weapons? Emergency defensive protocols only," Keeper replied. "Primary systems remain offline. A direct engagement would result in our destruction." Figures. The Krell ships moved closer, weapons charging. Marcus could feel their targeting systems probing space, trying to lock onto a vessel that didn't quite exist the way they expected. "How long until they fire?" Marcus asked. 90 seconds, Keeper said. Standard escalation procedure. Marcus's mind raced. He couldn't outrun them. He couldn't outgun them. If he surrendered, the Krell would strip the ship down to atoms and never let him leave alive. But humans didn't win by playing fair. "Status of mining drones?" Marcus asked. "Attached to the hull, not configured for combat. Can you overload them?" Keeper hesitated. "They are not weapons. Their detonation would be inefficient and—" "Will it mess with their sensors?" Marcus interrupted. A pause. Yes, briefly. Marcus grinned, sharp and humorless. That's all I need. The Krell commander's voice returned, louder, more impatient. Final warning. Power down, now. Marcus waited. He felt the moment when the Krell ships settled into optimal firing range, when their formation tightened, confident and aggressive, when every tactical algorithm they relied on told them victory was assured. Now, Marcus said. The mining drones detached from the hull and shot forward, accelerating faster than the Krell expected. Plasma fire erupted immediately, tearing most of them apart in bright flashes of light. But 3 drones made it through. They detonated harmlessly against Krell shields. No damage, no penetration. Then the electromagnetic pulse hit. Invisible energy rippled outward, slamming into Krell systems. Targeting arrays went dark. Communications flickered. For 3 precious seconds, the battle group was blind. Marcus moved. He didn't engage engines. Instead, he thought, space folded. The architect's ship vanished from its position and reappeared behind the largest Krell warship, close enough that its hull filled the viewport. The Krell vessel's own bulk shielded Marcus from the others' firing arcs. What is this? The Krell commander roared over the channel. Track the target. They couldn't. Marcus shifted again, short-range displacements that ignored inertia and momentum. The ship flickered across the battlefield, appearing where no sane tactical model predicted. He wasn't executing a plan so much as improvising one in real time, reacting to instinct and opportunity. A Krell cruiser took a glancing hit from its own allies' weapons and veered off course. Another blundered into a dense debris pocket Marcus had subtly destabilized, forcing it to divert power to shields instead of weapons. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't efficient. It was chaos. One Krell ship broke formation, armor scorched and systems unstable. Damage critical, a panic voice transmitted, requesting withdrawal. Hold position, the commander barked. Too late. The damaged ship jumped to hyperspace, abandoning the fight. Another followed moments later, its captain unwilling to gamble their life against an enemy that refused to behave like anything they'd ever trained to fight. The remaining 2 warships circled cautiously now, weapons hot but hesitant. Their commander finally made the call. Disengage, he growled. This vessel is abnormal. Transmit all combat data to high command. Marcus felt the shift as the Krell ships retreated, hyperspace signatures flaring one by one. He sagged back into the command chair, hands shaking. We won? You survived, Keeper corrected. Your tactics were illogical, inefficient, and completely effective. I would not have conceived that. Marcus laughed weakly. Welcome to humanity. The laughter died as Keeper displayed a new alert. Before retreating, the Krell transmitted our position and battle recordings. Marcus closed his eyes. How long? Hours, Keeper said. By tomorrow, this sector will know. By next week, the galaxy will know a human activated an architect vessel. Marcus stared at the holographic display, watching the data ripple outward like a spreading infection. We're famous, he said quietly. Yes, Keeper replied. And now everyone will want you. Governments would demand control. Corporations would offer obscene sums for exclusive access. Pirates would try to take the ship by force. Religious cults would declare him a messiah or a demon. None of them would let him walk away. Marcus had wanted to hide. That option was gone. He stood slowly, squaring his shoulders. Fear gnawed at him, but beneath it burned something sharper. Defiance. Then we don't run blindly, he said. We prepare. Preparation will require allies, Keeper noted. Marcus nodded. People with nothing to lose. People who don't fit. He looked out at the drifting asteroids, at the wreckage of ships that had once believed themselves untouchable. If the galaxy wants to hunt us, he said, we'll make sure it learns something first. The architect vessel adjusted course, slipping deeper into the shadows. And somewhere, far beyond Marcus's awareness, powerful eyes began to turn toward a failed salvager who had just rewritten the rules of survival. The galaxy reacted exactly as Marcus had expected. And worse, within days of the Krell encounter, encrypted messages flooded every frequency Keeper could monitor. Some were cautious inquiries disguised as diplomacy. Others were blunt threats. A few were offers so generous they bordered on insult. Wealth, protection, political power, all in exchange for temporary custodianship of the architect vessel. Marcus ignored them all. He had learned something during the fight with the Krell. Power didn't announce itself politely. It attracted attention whether you wanted it or not. If he was going to survive what came next, he couldn't do it alone. "We need a crew," Marcus said, standing in the command chamber as holographic star maps rotated around him. Not soldiers following orders. Thinkers. People who don't belong anywhere else. Outcasts, Keeper observed. Exactly. The first was Lyra. She was a Nexari, tall, silver-skinned, with 4 slender arms that never seemed to stop moving. The Nexari were legendary engineers, their technology precise to the point of obsession. But their society valued rigid logic above all else. Creativity was tolerated only within narrow, approved boundaries. Lyra had crossed those boundaries. Marcus found her in a scrapyard on a fringe world, surrounded by broken machines that shouldn't have worked anymore, but somehow did. When he approached, she didn't reach for a weapon. She just studied him with luminous eyes. "You're the human," she said flatly, "the one with the impossible ship." "So I've been told." "You shouldn't be here," Lyra continued. "Everyone is looking for you." Marcus smiled. "That makes 2 of us." Keeper's assessment confirmed what rumors already hinted at. Lyra was one of the most gifted engineers alive. She had been exiled for experimenting with emotional modeling and machine logic, trying to understand creativity itself. Her people had called her defective. When Marcus invited her aboard the architect vessel, her hands trembled, not with fear, but awe. "This violates every principle I know," she whispered as the ship responded to her presence. "I want to see everything." The second was Torque, a Krell warrior, massive even by his species standards, his red-scaled armor scarred from countless battles. He was supposed to be dead, executed for desertion after refusing an order to annihilate a civilian colony. Marcus found him on a frontier station, working as hired muscle for merchant convoys. When Marcus made his offer, Torque laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. "Why would I trust a human?" he asked. "Because we're both being hunted," Marcus replied, "and because I need someone who knows how Krell commanders think." Torque studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Stupid courage," he said, "but courage." The third was Dr. Okoye, a historian and xenocultural analyst who had spent her career studying the architects through fragments and myths. When Marcus contacted her, she arrived within 48 hours, her expression tight with barely contained urgency. "Show me everything," she demanded the moment she stepped aboard. Together, the crew retreated to a nebula on the edge of explored space, its dense gas clouds masking energy signatures and long-range scans. There, for the first time, Marcus revealed the true nature of the ship. It wasn't just a warship. It was a foundry, a place where ideas became matter. Keeper demonstrated as Marcus focused on a concept, an adaptive shield that didn't just block energy, but learn from it. The foundry responded, shaping reality according to his imagination in Keeper's translation. Weapons that evolved mid-battle, engines that phased through solid matter, systems that rewrote themselves based on experience. Lyra stared at the holograms, her hands reaching out instinctively. "This isn't engineering," she breathed. "It's collaboration between mind and machine." "This is what the architects were building toward," Okoye said softly, "and what terrified their enemies." The illusion of secrecy shattered 2 weeks later. 20 ships dropped out of hyperspace. Galactic Concordat markings flared across Marcus's displays. An enforcement fleet, immaculate and overwhelming. Their hail cut through the nebula with cold authority. "Marcus Chen, by order of the Galactic Concordat, you are commanded to surrender the architect vessel immediately." You have 1 hour to comply. Resistance will be met with force. 20 warships, even with their new systems. The odds were brutal. Torque crossed his arms. They expect us to panic. Marcus shook his head. They expect us to surrender. He turned to the crew. No more running. The hour was spent positioning the ship, deploying self-replicating repair drones, activating systems the Concordat had never encountered. Lyra brought experimental shield generators online. Torque calibrated weapons. Akoi monitored communications, noting the rigid predictability of Concordat command structures. When the attack came, it was textbook. Perfect formation, coordinated volleys, flawless execution. And completely wrong. Marcus used the nebula itself as a weapon, vanishing into gas clouds and reappearing at impossible angles. His weapons adapted faster than Concordat defenses could adjust. Repair drones swarmed damage before it became critical. Energy absorbed by the learning shields fed directly back into the system, making them stronger with every hit. 3 hours later, debris drifted where a fleet had been. 7 Concordat ships destroyed, 8 crippled, 5 fled in panic. Silence filled the command chamber. "We just declared war on the Concordat," Akoi said quietly. "No," Marcus replied, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "We showed them they can't bully us," Keeper interrupted. "Long-range sensors detect anomalies. Approaching vessels. Their signatures match architect extinction records." Marcus felt a chill run through him. They weren't Concordat. They weren't Krell. 3 shapes emerged from the darkness between stars. Black beyond black. Their forms so wrong his eyes struggled to register them. "Void ships," Keeper said. "The weapon that hunted the architects." For the first time since their bond, Marcus felt fear echo back from the AI. The real war had just arrived. The void ships did not announce themselves. They did not power weapons or maneuver aggressively. They simply existed. 3 vast absences hanging in space. So dark they seemed to swallow light, color, even meaning. Looking at them made Marcus's head ache, as if his brain was trying to process something that refused to be understood. A signal cut through the silence. The voice that emerged was ancient, layered with echoes that felt older than language itself. "Architect vessel, you have awakened. This outcome is unacceptable. Surrender the ship and the bonded human. We will make the erasure quick." Lyra's hands flew across her console. "They're generating a disruption field. We can't jump. We can't phase." Marcus felt the fear ripple through the bond, not just his own, but Keeper's as well. Memories surged, architect fleets vanishing without debris, without death, without even absence, as if reality itself had been edited. "Keeper," Marcus said quietly, "how did they fight these things?" "They did not," Keeper replied. "Not successfully. Our weapons failed. Our shields collapsed. We did not understand the principles involved." Akoi's voice trembled. "They don't destroy matter. They remove it, like it never existed." Marcus closed his eyes. Images flooded his mind. Ancient wars, desperate strategies, the architects pushing harder and harder, only to be erased one by one. They had been powerful, brilliant, alone. And then Marcus saw it. Not a weapon, a pattern. "They can erase matter," he said slowly. "Energy, information stored in space." He opened his eyes. "But can they erase ideas?" The command chamber went still. "That's how we move," Marcus continued. "We don't push space. We imagine a different arrangement of it. What if we step outside reality entirely? Not hide within it, leave it." Lyra stared at him. "That would require insane amounts of energy. And somewhere to go." Akoi inhaled sharply. "The architect records mention something. Spaces between realities. Gaps. Places that exist only as potential." Keeper processed in silence, calculations cascading faster than Marcus could follow. "It is possible," the AI said at last, "but the risk is extreme. We may not return." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Do it." The universe broke. Colors that had no names flashed across Marcus's vision. Sounds existed without sources. For a heartbeat that might have been an eternity, Marcus felt himself unravel. Thoughts separating from identity, awareness stretching thin. Then everything went gray. They floated in a space between spaces, a dimension where light existed but had nothing to illuminate. The void ships were gone, unable to follow. Lyra laughed, breathless and disbelieving. We actually escaped. Relief was short-lived. They're doing something, Okoye whispered, staring at incoming data. To the universe we left behind. Keeper translated the broadcast, its voice tight. For every hour you remain hidden, we will erase one target. A station, a colony, a world. Surrender or watch existence diminish. Tears filled Okoye's eyes. They're holding the galaxy hostage. Marcus felt the weight of it crush down on him. This wasn't a battle he could win by being clever. This wasn't something he could outmaneuver. Then the answer hit him. Not like inspiration, but like inevitability. We don't fight them, Marcus said. Not directly. He turned to the crew. We make their threat meaningless. They stared at him. If everyone has this technology, Marcus continued, if everyone can adapt, resist, fight back, then the silence loses leverage. They can't erase everyone, and they can't control what they can't monopolize. Lyra's voice was barely audible. That would violate every Concordat law. Good, Marcus said. Okoye swallowed. Once we do this, there's no going back. Chaos, wars, abuse. I know. Keeper was silent for a long moment. The architects feared this choice, the AI said at last. They believed control would preserve them. It did not. Marcus, the transmission went out everywhere. Every network, every device, every mind capable of receiving it. Architect technology, simplified, translated, stripped of exclusivity, spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Instructions, principles, possibility, government, it didn't matter. Within hours, prototype shields activated on backwater stations. Within days, new weapons and engines emerged across dozens of species. The galaxy, once helpless, began to change. They erased targets that activated the technology, but for every one removed, 10 more appeared. Krell warships with adaptive shields, Nexari vessels with rewritten logic cores, even Concordat fleets forced to adapt or die. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy fought as one. This is impossible, the silence's ancient voice crackled. You cannot resist inevitability. Marcus, one void ship fell, then another. The third tried to flee, but found its path blocked by dozens of vessels working in perfect, creative coordination. When it vanished, the silence ended. 5 years later, Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the Architect's Covenant. Ships from 100 species came and went, carrying builders, thinkers, and students. The station was neutral ground, no flags, no armies, no ownership. Knowledge flowed freely. The Concordat had offered Marcus power, titles, a seat among rulers. He had refused. I'm not here to lead, he'd told them. I'm here to teach. A young human girl stood beside him now, eyes wide as she watched the traffic outside. Is it true, she asked quietly, that you were just a salvager? Marcus smiled. It's true. How did you change everything? He considered the question. I didn't, he said finally. I just shared what I found. Keeper's presence stirred gently in his mind. You have altered the trajectory of the galaxy, the AI observed. Marcus watched as students from species, once sworn enemies, worked side by side, building things that had never existed before. Maybe, he said, but the important part isn't what I built. He closed his eyes, remembering the beacon, the silence, the choice. It's what everyone else did after. And for the first time since answering a 10,000-year-old call, Marcus Chen felt something rare and precious. Peace.